Hey everyone, and welcome to my August Recent Reads wrap-up. I had a really good reading month in August, so let's talk about the books I read and the ones I really enjoyed. First up is Cascade Failure. This is by L.M. Sargas and it says, "Welcome to Team Ambit. Mind the gap and try not to die." And that is all I'm really going to tell you about this one, just because I feel like it's a really good one to go into without much knowledge. But this one was so much fun. It really reminded me a lot of things like Guardians of the Galaxy and Firefly, in the sense that you've got this ragtag team of heroes all having to band together to basically help the greater good, and it was so much fun to read. I really enjoyed this one. I love the world this created and all of the characters, and I thought it was brilliantly fun. I also read The Flicker. This is by H.E. Edgman, and this was very kindly gifted to me by Abby of Pelennor, so thank you very much, Abby, for gifting me this book for my birthday, because I absolutely loved it. And this is following three siblings after a massive solar flare has deeply affected the world, as they are trying to get to one of their grandmothers to try and help them survive, and what happens along the way. And I really like this one. I really like that this was talking about things like found family, and also trying to get along with our family that we are related to, as well as putting far too much on our shoulders at a very young age. I found that very relatable personally. And then also talking about discovering gender and realising our gender identity, and I thought that was all done fantastically well in this book. I loved all of the characters, I loved the storyline, I loved absolutely everything about it, and once again this is absolutely solidifying H.E. Edgman as one of my auto-buy authors, because this was fantastic. Next, I also read How Long Till Black Future Month, and this was done by N.K. Jemisin, and quite frankly, N.K. Jemisin has done it again with this, because while I sometimes struggle with short stories to get into them, just because they are so short and I just find it a little bit more difficult to get invested, N.K. Jemisin in every single one of these stories had me within a sentence, and I loved every single second of all of these stories. But my favourites that I do want to quickly shout out from this collection were The City Born Great, The Effluent Engine, Cloud Dragon Skies, Valor Victorian, The Storyteller's Replacement, The Evaluators, Walking Awake, Cuisine des Memories. I apologise right now if I've butchered the French pronunciation on that. I probably have. And then also On the Banks of the River Lex and Non-Zero Probabilities. I loved all of the stories in here, but those 10 really stood out for me because they were so well done. I wanted more from each of their worlds, and I thought they were just brilliant, so I had to shout them out. I then read Perilous Times. This is by Thomas D. Lee, and this is about two knights from the Round Table of Arthurian legend waking up to find that Britain is in peril from essentially climate change and what they try to do to try and stop it, and it all goes from there. And this was so much fun to read. I had a great time reading this one. I love that this was very much a satirical look on climate change, the people who are causing climate change, as well as the people who are causing division within England and across the world. I thought that was all done fantastically well. It was very satirical in a very kind of Pratchett way, which I really enjoyed. I know I always say it's a Pratchett way, but he is basically the only satirical author I read, so he's basically the only person I can really sort of like compared to, so apologies for that. I also love how this also tackled things like climate change, like I said, as well as racism and feminism and sexism and all of this kind of thing. I thought that was all done really sensitively and really well, and also it featured Knights of the Round Table beating up racists, and quite frankly there is no better time to read that than right now, so that was a really good thing to read about as well, and I just had generally a really good time with this one. And then the last book I read before I go into the comics was The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson, which is the second one in the HMRC series. So I can't go into too much detail about this one, just because it is the second one in the series, but it was so well done. I love how this went further in terms of exploring the world and the different witches around the world and all of this kind of thing. I thought that was done fantastically well, and then the cliffhanger ending. Oh my god, I was literally reading this past midnight, because if you haven't gone to sleep yet, it's not the next month. So I was reading this past midnight and I nearly screamed out loud at the ending plot twist, but I couldn't because everyone else in the house was asleep. So I obviously couldn't say anything, but it was incredible. The plot twist ending, the rest of the story was fantastic as well. I am desperate for the next book in the series, despite the fact it's probably not coming out until next year, but oh my god, the only thing I can say is read this series and definitely look it up on audiobook, because Nicola Coughlan knocked it out of the park again with the reading of this story and all of the accents and everything else. It was just fantastic. I have no other words for it. And then as for the comics I read, the first thing I need to mention is Eve Ewing's Black Panther, and I really like this one. This one is looking at a Wakanda where they've essentially gotten rid of the monarchy, and we're looking at T'Challa, who is now not a king but still Black Panther, exploring the rest of Wakanda and trying to keep it safe. And I thought this was a really good look at the outside of Wakanda, because we usually focus on the capital city and also obviously the royal family and what happens when neither of those things are around. And I really like that. I really like getting to know Wakanda more, and I thought this was so much fun to read as well. And then the final thing I have to mention is the entire Year One Ultimate Universe by Jonathan Hickman, Peach Momoko and Brian Edward Hill. And the Ultimate Universe is essentially a brand new Year Zero of Marvel Universes. It essentially is where you can go straight into it. You will learn about the characters as they get their powers, see their origin stories and this kind of thing from Year One. So if you're a brand new reader, you can just dive straight into this one without needing to know a ton of backstory or anything else. Or if you're someone who's been reading Marvel comics for years, it's just a fun new take on the characters you know and love. And it was fantastically done. I really enjoyed this one. I love seeing things like Peter Parker essentially being married with children before he gets bitten by the spider, seeing T'Challa take on Moon Knight, which is essentially the gods Khonshu and Ra, while also being married to Okoye, and also seeing people like Shuri then being the head of the Dora Milaje. Then also you've got things like the X-Men, who are now essentially based on Japanese folklore, this kind of thing. It was all done fantastically well. I love this brand new look into the Marvel Universe and these characters I know and love, and I'm so excited to continue on with it because I had such a good time with this. And that is absolutely everything I read in the month of August, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me a book you read in August and really enjoyed. I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a book stack emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to my Etsy store that sells bookish merch if you want to treat yourself to something bookish today. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But till next time everyone, bye!